We'll go ahead and start. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome. I'm Anandita Bhattacharjee, Program Manager, Communications Transport at WRI India. And I welcome you all to the first webinar of WRI India's Transport Learning Series, a space for focused conversations on emerging transport research, on-ground pilots, and practice-led insights. Today's session focuses on using behavioral nudges to improve public transport adoption. Taking us through this topic from WRI India, today we have Rohan Rao, Program Lead, Integrated Transport, Gurgubali Sai Chaitanya, Senior Program Research Specialist, Archana Balachandran, Senior Program Associate Transport, Smriti Harsh, Program Lead, Strategy and PMEL. This webinar will be recorded for learning purposes. Request Rohan to please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Anandita. Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this Transport Learning Series. We're very glad to have you here. Let me just share my screen. Please let me know when you can see the screen, please.
We can see it now.
Great. Thanks. So, as I was saying, we at WRI India are huge proponents of sustainable mobility and active mobility. And today we want to deep dive on our work on this kind of sustainable mobility towards moving people towards public transport. And looking through the lenses of Bengaluru, one of the key data points that we mostly talk about when you say talk about Bengaluru is about its public transport modal share. Like, how many trips do people make in the city? When you look at that, you will see that, in Bengaluru, 30% to 32% of every trip that is made in the city, like, out of 100 trips, 32 trips are made through public transport. That may be bus or metro, right? When you benchmark this against a global sort of cities like London and Singapore, the modal share of public transport is around 45% to 50%. So that is the aspiration of where we want to go. And by 2050, 2060, the aspiration of Bengaluru is to move towards this, the public transport modal share of about 70%. But the question to ask now is, why are we not heading towards that? Why are we at 32%, right? But there are a multitude of factors that are the reason for it. One of the main causes for that, and when we speak to people and commuters, one of the major reasons is the lack of, or rather, poor first and last mile connectivity. And that is the focus of our learning series, the part one of the series today, is to showcase the work that we are currently doing to sort of alleviate this and to improve last mile access in Indian cities. The STAMP, what we call the Station Access and Mobility Program, is a multi-year, multi-city engagement by WRI India, which has been supported by Toyota Mobility Foundation with a core focus on improving the last mile access. And we have been doing this for the last close to 10 years now. There's been 7 cities we've engaged with, multiple enterprises that have been working together with us, a lot of on-the-ground surveys that have been done. This has been done through engaging these sort of startup ecosystems in India, right, who have this sort of thing to innovate and piloting innovations to improve metro and public transport access. We also collaborate with multiple different stakeholders across India towards all the transport agencies to improve their operations. And also this is all sort of the groundwork is done through in-depth policy research on user behavior. So these are the intervention areas. We worked with 7 different cities starting at 2017. We looked at last mile deployment, looked at last mile planning in cities like Pune. We also looked at how data can be visualized, because you have a lot of data, but what are the assimilation of the data and how can that be sort of understood better? We worked with that. In Bengaluru, we started in 2017, and now again in 2026, we're working in Bengaluru to sort of some sort of interventions, right? You might see these are the solutions that we've engaged through. So in Bengaluru 2017, you might see some of a big sort of startups names that pop up, like one of this being Bounce and Quick Ride. In 2017, as part of the STAMP program that under the Toyota Mobility Foundation, these startups were supported in Bengaluru, Bounce and Quick Ride. In Hyderabad, Biker Journey. We helped in Kochi. In Mumbai, we have My Bikes. In Nagpur, we work with 021, who are electric 3-wheeler auto rickshaws. And in Delhi, we work with the mobility as service more mass applications like Tummoc, Wide, and also Metro, right? So these are different kinds of varied kind of solutions that we've engaged over a last decade. But all of this is, as I was talking about, the benchmark or like in the base, the foundation for all of these insights is through our research. It's robust research is what WRI India does. And this key learnings was assimilated in this working paper that we published a couple of years back. It's called Improving Metro Access in Indian Cities, Evidence from Three Cities. Close to 7,200 metro users were surveyed in Nagpur and in Delhi and in Bangalore to understand their user behaviors. What is the demography? What are their choices of first and last mile? And you can learn more about this in our paper. We'll also share this link with you, and you can also scan the code at the end of this presentation. But the evidence sort of, when you juxtapose with the physical infrastructure that is happening across India, there are close to 1,000 kilometers of metro lines that are operational metro lines in India. So this was like, this helped us to understand, this working paper helped us to understand three or four important takeaways that we took from this paper was the metro attracts a specific demographic of people, commuters aged between 19 and 35, right? Who use this for commute, for work, and specifically for education. One thing that we found out was this metro users generally walk or use low cost shared last mile modes, right? Last mile modes, which are around like 800 meters to 1.5, 2 kilometers to reach to the metro station or reach their workplace. And certain strategic nudges, such as like visual cues or incentives, could influence the adoption of more number of people to take this metro. And that is the takeaway on which the focus of this presentation is whether there could be some behavioral science driven interventions that can be done to commuters to encourage this kind of mode shift. The reason why why the focus is on behavioral science driven intervention is, like I was mentioning, close to 1,000 kilometers of operational metro is already there in Indian cities. But when you do the detailed project report, and then you do when the different cities have looked at how much ridership could happen in the next preceding years, you see that we have not reached the expected ridership, right? So while we're looking at all the supply side sort of interventions to how to improve, the one part of demand side of actually getting people onto these metro stations was somehow something that we wanted to focus on. So this is one of the key takeaways from this research, was to provide these kind of behavioral science interventions to get people onto this public transport modes, right? So let us look at, so when we started focusing on how we can incorporate these kind of behavioral nudges into commuters, we wanted to see through the lenses of the commuter itself. Now let's assume there are two types of archetypes, right? You might be multiple, but let's focus on this. One is John Doe and one is Jane Doe, right? And both of them are IT employees, but one is a car lease benefactor. Both of them work in the same company. One is the new hire, this is their first job, but the company provides them with free parking. There's some sort of lease that they've provided, the fuel reimbursement. The other one is also works in the same company, but she's a public transport enthusiast, right? But she's provided with more perks. She's been commuting for 3 years, while the one of the John is provided with free reserved parking. Jane has to the last mile she has to walk to her metro station, whether it is raining, whether it's cold or whether it's hot, right? So what happens is when you have colleagues on the same company, what the focus is on driving, but the focus is on personal vehicles, where you're incentivized to take personal vehicles, it feels like public transport is sort of not being put focus on. What happens is, over a period of time, when people start using public transport with no perks, then they start assimilating their own sort of choices, saying, why am I not being given any perks? But when you look at it, both of them face the same kind of issues. Even a person using personal vehicles in a two-wheeler or four-wheeler just caught up in traffic, right? They just caught up to 2 hours, 3 hours it takes to reach their homes. And the person who's using public transport, bus stops are sometimes non-existent. Safety is an issue. Infrastructure, there's no pedestrian infrastructure for people to walk and so on, right? So these kind of inherent issues that are there. So we wanted to understand all of these different types of archetypes and sort of devise what could be the optimum or the right side of behavioral nudge that needs to be done to sort of shift people to public transport. So here is where I would want to sort of, we have a great set of people who have joined this webinar. So here's a question to you folks, right? What, in your opinion, are good behavioral nudges to shift people, commuters like John, to public transport, and also sustain commuters like Jane, who are like public transport enthusiasts? So we will ask like a quick Menti question and want to get like people's opinion on what are good behavioral nudges that you think will help shift or sustain corporate commuter. We'll just we'll just be sharing the QR code, so folks can use your phone to. We're just seeing this, Archana. If you can go to the QR code, great. So you can scan this QR code, or if people can go to menti.com and then you can type in this code. It's 79860085. You can respond. You can just type in what you feel, right? So in sense, like, what do you want? Robust public infrastructure to walk, right? Can you have like great infrastructure, like cycling tracks, which are like well maintained? It is not on the main road, because half of the people who have like we have spoken to, like, safety is a big problem. Like you have a big truck which is going past you at 50, 60 kilometers per hour, and you're like a bit afraid to cycle on those roads. So that could be one. Yes, great. Monetary incentives, we're already seeing monetary incentives. Great. Carpooling, yes, this is great. Shuttle bus from offices, monthly pass incentives, great. Yeah, we'll give people another 5 minutes. Great. Citizen friendly walkability, absolutely. Dedicated lanes, yes. Clean payment, absolutely. Like we're talking about, last mile connectivity seems to be the buzzword, and we agree. Integrated pass fares, yes. So not just, if you're looking not just at public infrastructure, like infrastructure is built infrastructure. If you can also look at, are there any innovations, right? Using technology, are there some innovations that you feel could incentivize you personally as a commuter? Would that incentivize you to take public transport more? If you can think through those lenses, well lit paths, yes. We have found in our research also what we call active edges, like where there are more number of people walking and it's well lit. People tend to use those streets, or they tend to get down at stops where it's well lit and more number of like people are moving. So active mobility, active edges plays an important role. Safety, carpooling. So 32 out of 47 have responded. So we'll give another couple of minutes for people to respond. Dedicated lanes, very interesting. Music to our ears. Hopefully, dedicated lanes for buses and not just for cars, hopefully. Feeder bus services, reliability, a lot of great responses. Paid parking to discourage. Great, excellent. Seamless connectivity. Demand-based supply, TOD, right? Transit-oriented development. Monthly pass incentive. We'll give another minute. We have 43 responses. We'll wait for another 7, 8 people to respond. All right. So we have 44, 45 responses, and this is just a word cloud, and we'll share this with all the participants in the end. But great responses. And some of these components we've also thought through this, and they're very much important for like a good urban planning practices. So these are some of these aspects of the what you have also suggested have been incorporated in the nudge that we are also doing. So if I can start sharing, continue with my presentation. So we also incorporated these things, right? And building upon our research paper, we did this behavioral nudge in Bengaluru at Electronic City. When we started devising how to go about it, we also started looking at the outer ring road, right? Outer ring road is the hub of IT, and close to 7.5 lakhs to 10 lakh people travel on the outer ring road in Bengaluru, right? So we went and asked to few hundreds of people, asking them, what is one thing that will help you take more public transport, and they said, why do you take personal vehicles even though you're caught in traffic for 1.5 2 hours? Most of the responses like, we want to take public transport, we want to take, but there is no metro on the outer ring road, right? If there's no infrastructure available, it's tough for us to take, right? So uh, when the yellow line started operations in August, we thought it is the opportune time for us to sort of run with the thesis of whether providing world-class infrastructure and fast infrastructure will help people to shift towards public transport. And that's why we started focusing on Electronic City in Bengaluru. Electronic City is on the yellow line. It starts with the Rashtriya Vidyalaya Road, which connects on the green line for people not very familiar with the geography of Bangalore, and then it goes through Electronic City. It's the hub of, again, it's a hub of IT and a lot of work, biomedical, with Biocon being part of it, and goes to Bomsandra, which is an industrial area. So it's around 17 to 18 kilometers. So we wanted to focus on companies along the Electronic City area. So we worked with the Electronic City Industrial Association, LCA, which is more than 200 to 500 companies are part of this association. So we work with them, who acted as an anchor organization for us to sort of work with all multiple companies. The reason why we focus on it was the previous research shows that choice commuters are one who have the financial independence to have a choice of whether they want to take a personal vehicle or whether they want to take a public transport, right? So that financial flexibility is there. So those choice commuters, which we say are people who make more than 60,000 rupees a month, right? Around 7 to 8 lakhs per annum, have this sort of propensity to have the choice. They do not tend to take buses or metro. And with the tech corridors of like an Electronic City ORR, we thought this would be the right sort of demographic to help. With the yellow line opening in August, and more than 2 lakh people work in Electronic City, so that is why we chose this area to do our sort of test out our thesis. And we started nudging through three lenses, and I think most of the responses were there, but all of them can be sort of assimilated somehow along these buckets. One is like an incentive based program, right? So it's a very simple thing where you give incentive for people to change their behavior. You give some sort of a discount for people, instead of coming in at 8 o'clock when it's peak, can you do a 9 o'clock or a 10 o'clock when there is not, it's like non-peak hour? Can you do that? And you get discount 5 or 10%, right? And then you reward people for taking more number of public transport trips. If you are a personal vehicle user who uses a bike or a car 5 days a week to work, if you were to do 3 days a week, right, or 2 days a week, you get some sort of a reward, and then you get recognition by your organization for being a public transport user, right? The other one is having the social norm campaigns, right? One thing that we have observed, and this is through again research and peer organizations global thing, is one thing that sticks to people is sometimes when given incentive to take back, people could revert with their behavior. But one thing that again is like, people are very good when you get appreciated by your peers, right? You showcase success stories. Say you're a sustainability champion who takes 20, 30, 40 trips a month to work, who walks 5, 10, 15, 20 kilometers in a month, and cycles. So these kind of success stories and leveraging these kind of peer influence could also help in nudging people to take these kind of sustainable mobility options. The other one is of also gamification. What if you could introduce challenges, and all of us, part of it, have encountered these kind of challenges or competition along somewhere, right? You have a Kindle, for example, and it has a streak saying that you have read for 30 days on a streak. continue for the next month. You have done 640 days, continue the streak. That's like a challenge or a competition. Or you say your peer has cycled 25 kilometers this month and you have done 20 kilometers. Let's do the next 5 kilometers. Those kind of gamifications, including introducing challenges, is also some kind of a behavioral nudge for people to move towards it. So these were the different kinds of nudges that we incorporated. So has been the journey so far, right? So we started in April of 2025, close to a year now. We launched the nudging commuter behavior program with Mr. Maheshwar Rao. He was then the BMRCL MD, and now he's the Chief Commissioner of the GBA. This is at LCI, as I said. And then June in 2025, we had an innovation challenge where we had got more than 50 to 60 innovation ideas that came to us. We had a jury of BMTC, BMRCL, GBA, all of the any Institute of Science. People come and choose. We had 3 winners we chose. And then, as I was telling you, it was an opportune time because the yellow line operations actually began. So we started implementing this. So we started the piloting of it in December. One of the winners was Orbit Wallet, and my colleague will go into the details of how we did this. And then we launched the Corporate Commute Nudge at Heikel Technologies, which is one of the companies in Electronic City, high precision makings. They do aerospace engineering. So they are one of the manufacturing industries in Electronic City. And then we also did, last month, we did this Corporate Commute Nudge at Biocon. At Biocon, we have more than 1,000 employees who are part of the initial cohort of pilots. And this was launched by Ms. Kiran Bujumdar, the chairperson of Biocon Limited. She was a big proponent and a supporter of this program. And as you might know, right, the Hebagodi station along the yellow line is also named after Biocon. So she's a big proponent of it. She's been very supportive of this program. And also Mr. Simant Kumar Singh, who was the Commissioner of Police for Bengaluru, was also part of this launch. And he also suggested that, these kind of interventions are very much needed, right? Now that we are doing in Electronic City, but this also has to be scaled up. So we've got these kind of people who have been supporting this. So now I would want to shift gears, and my colleague Ratnam will showcase the actual impact of what were the interventions, the innovative solutions, and what has been the preliminary impact of these solutions. So over to you, Ratnam. You can share your screen.
Okay, I hope you're all able to see my screen. I'm going to start. Okay, thank you, Rohan, for that introduction. I'll now take you all through the innovations that we have built over the past year with the help of the 3 innovators, Tummoc, Orbit, and VB. As Rohan explained earlier, we can broadly categorize the nudges into 3 buckets: social norm campaigns, incentive-based programs, and gamification. While there are overlaps across these 3 approaches, I've structured this discussion around the central themes of these 3 solutions. Tummoc is a mobility as a service solution. Orbit Wallet was an NCMC card. And VB is a gamification application, which interestingly enough was built from scratch during the course of this program. I am going to go to the next slide. Okay, so starting off with Tummoc, as I mentioned earlier, Tummoc is a mobility as a service platform that added a corporate commute feature to its existing app. With Tummoc, you can plan your journeys end to end and also pay for them. It covers the first mile metro buses and the last mile using auto or cabs. In Bangalore, Tummoc also has partnered with BMTC, so you can buy bus passes along with metro tickets. For this program, we are working with both Heikel and Biocon with Tummoc. Heikel is an aerospace manufacturing company, while Biocon is a biotech giant, as Rohan explained to you all earlier. To suit the needs of these 2 corporates, Tummoc developed a business profile that separates an individual's personal trips from those made for work. So Tummoc is an existing application. There was always a way for you to plan your journeys and pay for them. What they did for this program was to build a business profile where you could separate your personal trips from those of you're making for your work. Either that was to go to your office or for any field work that your office is assigned to. For this program, This not only simplifies the reimbursements, but also allows us to create a leaderboard where employees can compete based on the amount of carbon saved. As you can see, one of the screens that is displayed here, says that 34 kg carbon has been saved. The more rides you take, the more higher you get into this leaderboard. Let's say if there are five of you in your company taking the rides and you are the top, you might get additional rewards as part of this program. Okay, then, well, the most important stakeholder of this program is the employee, as I explained the features which the employees could use in the previous slide. It is important to note the success of this program relies entirely on how involved the corporate is. In this case, that is Hycal and Biocon. We were lucky to find two very involved partners who worked with Tummoc to build an admin dashboard that worked for their needs. This became important as Biocon changed their corporate commute policy to encourage the use of public transport. And the admin dashboard can also be used to add employees to the pilot group and also provide additional cashbacks and so on. This feature became very important for us because once we started monitoring the usage at Hykel, we realized a lot of people are using buses more than metro. A lot of employees in Hykel were coming from Madhavara, which is close to the nice ring road, which has express buses connecting to Electronic City. So more than 30 users have been consistently purchasing bus passes at Hykel, which we were able to monitor during the course of program and also enable additional incentives for those purchasing bus passes. In addition to these initial incentives, we are also nudging individuals through a social norm campaign. At Hykel, we announced the top 5 users in the month of February. And also in the month of February, subsequently in March and also now April and May, we will be doing the same. These top 5 users will get additional incentives. There will also be internal communication emails sent by the Hykel management to all of the members, part of the pilot group, to encourage the use of public transport among other users. At Biocon, though, we launched with a target of 900 employees, and the program has been a tremendous success. We are now at over 1,200 employees using Tummoc to begin their public transport journeys. In the past month alone, we've seen transactions worth 18 lakh and more than 33,000 metro rides have been taken at Biocon. Now I'll move on to the next solution, that is Orbit Wallet. Orbit, okay, while Tummoc was built for corporates that had the capacity to manage the program and be involved on a day-to-day basis, Orbit was aimed at smaller companies that did not want to spend a lot of time on administering this program. So what we did was Orbit Wallet is an easy to deploy national common mobility card that bundles both shopping and public transport payments. In Bangalore, currently the use is limited to metro, but we're hoping it can be used on buses very soon. But if you're in Mumbai, Chennai, or in Delhi, you can use the card both for buses and metro. As part of the program, all employees received an initial incentive and a small amount was set aside to provide additional cashback beyond what the metro already offered. Like most metro systems offer 5%, 10%, even 15% discount on the regular fare based on time of the day. This allowed us to measure the stickiness of the financial incentives, essentially whether people continue to use their own money to recharge their wallets after the initial balance was over or not. Orbit also helped us build a dashboard using which we could, at WRI India, we could monitor at a very high level how the usage has been. And also Orbit did continuous monitoring of how each individual was using metro, and we were able to bucket users into 4 groups. That is, we were able to bucket users into 4 groups. That was dominant, low, medium, and high. These user groups then received different messaging. I will not read out the messages, but you can see them here on the screen. These user groups then received different messaging that was aim towards how much they have used the metro or how much they have not used the metro. And we have seen that the messaging actually works. The messaging coupled with us meeting with their company point of contacts and sending reminder emails has actually helped us drive usage of Orbit wallet cards. Over 7,000 metro rides have been taken and 250 employees were engaged for this program. Now I'll move on to VB, probably the most exciting product of all three. As I explained earlier, this was built during the course of this program. When we started this work, there was no application as such, but we've been able to build something very interesting that is a gamification platform. VB's nudging strategy primarily relies on a mode detection algorithm. If you allow it to track you at all times, it will be able to say it will be able to detect if you've taken metro or if you've walked or if you've taken a car. Each person's mode is detected using their location, speed, and elevation. Using this information, pedestrians and users of the metro are rewarded for every kilometer they travel. And VB was also the only solution, as I explained, built during the course of this program. Collectibles that are similar to Pokemon Go are placed around the city for users to collect and earn more rewards. Each participating user's carbon emissions are used to create a leaderboard where the top 5 users are rewarded at the end of month for traveling more sustainably. Going with the theme, as you can see here in one of the screens, the city is divided into hexes. The more you travel in a hex, you capture that hex, and if you pass to a hex that has a collectible, you get additional rewards. And now, this is until now I've explained to you all of the 3 solutions that we have worked with. We'll now move to what we are measuring as part of this program. We've been able to collect high-level data from all of the 3 innovators. So we are most interested in knowing how much mode shift has happened. We were working with all of the companies all of the corporates, and one of the primary things we explained to them was that we needed a pilot group that contained both public transport users and private vehicle users. Primarily private vehicle users, because we wanted to see if nudging strategies can be used to move people to mode shift. We are measuring if people have shifted to buses or metro, and we are also measuring how much rewards have been leveraged. It is not just the amount which has been leveraged. We are seeing if people are recharging their wallets after the initial money that we have given to kickstart the program. Are they continuing to recharge after the cashbacks are complete or not? Then the carbon save. This is a very straightforward requirement from all of the 3 innovators. They're able to see how many trips people have made and what mode they were using earlier to say that a certain amount of carbon is saved. And carbon saved is used as the main metric for rewarding, giving additional incentives at Tummoc. Now, what are some of the learnings and insights for us from this program? Frequency is freedom. When the program started in August, the number of trains were very less, and there used to be 1 train every 18 minutes to Electronic City. We had, in a few months after August, we had launched the Orbit wallet, and we realized the uptake was not very high in the first 1 month because it was very difficult for people to use the metro. So we realized that incentives work best when there is frequent and high quality public transport available. It is very hard to convince people to use up more time just to use public transport out of goodness of their heart. Then privacy and information security matter a lot to the big corporates. As we worked with corporates of different sizes and shapes and also working in different industries, we realized each of them has their own requirement. A lot of them will ask the innovators to produce information security documents. They will also require that the employees are not tracked at all times. And these are some of the things that we learned while we were interacting with the corporates. And the nudges must be layered. Literature and early insights from our work shows that not a straightforward nudge like a financial incentive may not be uh, the only way to nudge people. If we do a combination of nudges, that might work better, which we're seeing in Tummoc, right? In Tummoc's case, while there is a financial incentive to kickstart the use of this program, there is also a social norm campaign running alongside it, which is encouraging people to come back to the program after their initial incentive is completed. So I will end my presentation here. I will leave you on this slide where you can scan to read a paper or scan each of these innovators website, go to their innovators websites and download their applications, try them for yourselves. I'll leave you here. We're open for questions.
We do
Sorry.
have a bunch of questions in the Q&A section. Rohan, do you want to take them up?
Sure. So I'm just looking through the questions. Okay, so I don't know, it says anonymous attendee. I know who asked this, but who sees this streak and rewards? Perhaps collaborating with institutions who showcase this would be helpful. These streaks, and so the way that this has been developed is because the companies play a very key important role to this, right? And they have to, like, their HRs and the facilities team work with their employees and ask them to download these apps. So there is some sort of responsibility and also some sort of liability on the employees and the employers. So the data that is collected, it's not disseminated for public. It's only for the employers. They can look at all of these streaks. Of course, the employees can see their streak as well. When they do this business to business application, they can see how much they have saved, what's the CO2 emission that is saved, how many kilometers they've walked, cycled, or number of trips that they've taken. And that streak, all those gamification that we are talking about, and uh, the top 10 top 10 list of people who are then, it is visible to everyone, but not for external consumption, right? It's not open for public. This is very much like taking care of, like, the corporate side of things, because you have to keep no personal identifiers can be shared externally. So that is why we don't share it publicly, but it is for the employer, and they can see through their employees what they've done and so forth, so that they can also reward them. While this is a pilot for 2 to 3 months, we hope that this can be scaled up and it can continue within the company, right? So we're giving all the information to them. So that is one. The Sorry, am I looking at there have been some that have been answered, is it, Archana? We have answered few questions.
That's correct. Rohan, maybe you want to look at just the open questions tab.
Okay, I just want to answer that policy question because that's a very good question. Again, an anonymous attendee has asked this. Did WRI India Tummoc play a role in shaping and changing Biocon's internal transport policy? Right. So the main onus is we've had multiple discussions with Biocon, and Tummoc were part of it as part of the Toyota Mobility Foundation work. We worked with them for multiple, sessions. We spoke with them. A lot of conversations happened, and they also took our input, right? So input on how this can be done. But I mean, we can't take the whole credit for it. But Biocon instituted a policy change, right? So that's a big thing that they have done. So they have been pioneers for this. Of a company of this magnitude, around 16 to 17,000 employees work in Electronic City, right? And out of that, 1,000 people and 1,500 people or something have already started using it. So, of course, we've had conversations with Biocon and given our thoughts and helped them sort of, move this policy. But the big onus is for Biocon for having taken the first step of changing their policy as well, right? But for policy to work, you need to have these kind of interventions, right? So that is how we have facilitated. And Tummoc, of course, has played a key role in developing this product. They were previously a B2C. Like, all of us can download the Tummoc application and use it as a mobility service application. But this specific product under the Toyota Mobility Foundation work, they've created a B2B, right? If you look through the screenshot that Ratnam shared, if you can go to that, Ratnam, you can see that once the employer links their official email ID, it shows as Biocon. The screenshot will say if I'm an employee, say Rohan, welcome to Biocon, something like that, right? So you can say good afternoon. You'll say it's a Biocon logo, just to sort of bring into saying you're part of this cohort and so forth. So those small sort of niches have been created, so people feel part of the cohort. So that's one. And then there are a few questions. Uh, Anupam Escobar is like, would it help to have leadership of companies, the ones who come in the best class to role models? Absolutely. So Anupam, like I was talking, right? So even before we instituted this program, we started one sort of work along the outer ring road. We worked with also with Orca, Outer Ring Road Companies Association. So we had a lot of these leaders, right? CXOs be part of it, what we used to call as P2P, personal to public, P2, right? At least 2 days a week, if you can, like, use public transport to come to your workplace. So a lot of these CXOs and leadership cohort actually took the bus. Now, if you know, the purple line would stop at Kiarpuram metro station, right? And then people have to get to ORR. They were like feeder buses that have been instituted by BMTC. So all of these leadership CXOs actually sat on these buses, feeder bus service to get to EcoSpace and Bagmani and all of the tech parks. Honorable Minister of Transport also, Mr. Ramling Reddy also was part of it. He took the onus, and he like spoke to all of the CXOs and said, you be the role model for this, so that your employees can also take that kind of role. So absolutely, we are also working with, and that's why I was like showcasing Miss Kiran Mujumdar Shaw for like joining this, and she's being part of it, like spearheading this, right? They've come and they've sort of instituted this sort of policy to make people take public transport, and they've put in a lot of effort to sort of beautify their Hebegodi station and all of those things. So absolutely, leadership also has a role, and most of the leadership in Bengaluru is already taking a role of that sense, right? Shalini Mukherjee is asking, has this worked well across different age groups, or does this incentivization nudge working well with a specific age group generation? So Shalini, we're still in the initial stages of this. So it's been since, like I said, it's April. We've got 1 month of data. Initial analysis has been done, but since this is a working cohort, right, it's all of commuters, it'll of course be someone around 22 to 35, 40, 40, 50, 60 years of age. We've not broken it down as such, but we intend to do it. We'll definitely publish this. This will be, we're hoping to sort of publish this impact assessment in a few coming months when we have the data across all the different things. So please keep an eye out for it. But at least the preliminary assessment and having conversations with the leadership in Biocon, we're definitely seeing something moving in the right direction, right? So yes, so that's one. Is there any question? Sorry, my team, if you can look at any question which you feel. I'm just looking at. For corporates, okay. Sustainable, do you really think computer? Okay. For a sustainable run of these interventions, do you really think the companies will uphold their accountability? Anshika Gaur is asking. The hope is they'll sustain, right? So when you're having these conversations with companies, we are very, I have no hesitation to say this, but all companies want to move towards sustainable mobility. It is very much in all the conversations we have. People want, their employees to, have a safe commute, right? Be on time so that the productivity does not drop. And one of the AI generated images specifically I say is like when the person on a car is agitated, right? We see that on the roads of Bengaluru, there's a lot of road rage because it's like, people have worked for 8 hours. Now they're stuck in traffic, productivity also drops. So companies are very, very sort of, focused on making sure that this kind of sustainability changes. And you see this impact. And one of the quotes from the police commissioner also said, 1.5, 2 months post the opening of the yellow line on the electronic city, they actually found like the congestion reduced by 20 to 30%. Right? Will that sustain? That's a matter for discussion. But there was certain drop, and we hope when the network increases, right? So when you have the blue line and the upcoming pink line, everything, when there's a lot of network, we will have more number of people shift to it. So that, right? So based on our discussions and having worked with these companies, the underlying assessment that I can share with you is there is a sense of people wanting to uphold this accountability, right? So because they've put in their time, and now when you have a chairperson come and say, like, we want to continue this, there's an accountability there itself. And we have had many other companies come and talk to us about how they can incorporate in their companies, not just in Bangalore, in other cities across India as well. So there is something positive to look at. Okay. This I will hand over to Ratnam. Interesting question. The point system of the third solution, so which is VB, is very interesting. Could you get into a bit more detail on it? I think the point system about, like, collectibles into incentives, that you can go not much in detail, but give a bit of sense of flavor of it.
Okay, so in VB, you earn points as you take more sustainable modes for your commute. You get more points if your commute is completely green. That is a combination of both either walking, cycling, or metro. Once you accumulate a certain number of points, you're able to convert that into cash. That is how much detail I can go into right now. But if you have further questions, I'll ask my colleague Archana, who's there in the call right now. She can add a bit more.
Yeah, maybe if you could specify what detail you would like either in the chat or I'm not sure if you have the option to unmute. If you could just post that here, I'll be happy to provide more specific details. What specific, I'll get an understanding of what specifically you're looking for.
Okay. Should we move on to a different question, perhaps, Rohan?
Sure. All right. So this other one is interesting. I think Neela Manasa, she's from Hyderabad, and she's asking, considering Hyderabad's IT workforce is largely concentrated in the Western Corridor, high-tech city, Gachibowli, and financial district, and given the comparatively higher pay scales, monetary incentives alone may not significantly influence behavioral change. Most commuters here prioritize speed, comfort, and predictability over sustainability. In such a context, how do mobility platforms realistically shift commuter mindset from convenience-driven private transport to public and shared mobility? So this is great, Neela. So which is very similar to, and I mean, like, you can say they're sister cities, right? So what you are saying about the IT workforce and on the Western corridor is very similar to what we see in, like, the Outer Ring Road and Electronic City, right? So this is a same question that was posed to us when we started sort of developing this program as well. And I think Ratnam touched upon this as well, saying that only one incentive or a financial sort of incentive will sort of not move the scale. We're very cognizant of it. That is why we're looking at multiple different arrays of, like, what could be the incentive. And also because a lot of questions have been asked about age groups and everything. One sort of uh, feedback or like what I've got from companies is, like, some of the younger age groups are more sustainable sort of in their mindset. They're very clear about sustainability as one of their core sort of ethos, right? So we are seeing that the younger generation are more cognizant of what their carbon footprints are, how they can sort of take active steps to sort of reduce it. Like, more people are asking their HRs, so, like, do we have, like, shared or pooling or cycling facilities, right? And actively asking for, there are a few questions about, like, pedestrians things. There are many employees asking for, like, can we make better pedestrian infrastructure for us to walk, right? So there is a cognizance in, like, the growing number of, like, workforce of wanting to make this shift, right? So we are sensing that. So for that, you look at this kind of, the peer learning and social appreciation angle will come to that, right? So when you see these kind of things happening with your colleagues, we have seen, and research also suggests that there could be some amount of, like, stickiness, what is called the stickiness index. Over a period of time, there could be some behavioral nut that sticks, right? So Again, to reiterate, the three things that we're doing here, gamification or social peer and incentive, are not the end all of it. There could be multiple different aspects of it. So we also want to, that's why we're doing a pilot, right? So we also want to get feedback on what is working, how can it be better deployed, or what are the other aspects of behavioral science or nudges that can be incorporated, right? So that is the sort of whole idea behind this program. While we do a pilot, we also take back feedback and sort of, scale it up by sort of making those changes. So it's a learning for us as well. But to answer your question, hoping that we understand it could be a small percentage, and when we say modal share as well, we are also very realistic. When I initially started, we say 32%, and hoping to move towards 70% of public transport modal share. We know that's not going to happen in the next 2, 3, 5 years, right? It's a slow process, but it's a process nevertheless. And we want to make that sort of nudge to make sure that what happens in 5 years probably happens in 3 years. So that's the larger idea, right? And also one other thing is we also learned that when you put something as like you have to do this, there is also this sort of a rebellious nature of people that like, oh, you're asking me to do it, I'll not do it, right? And that is why we're looking, what we're calling is a nudge. We're asking people to make like small subtle changes to their whole process of thinking and moving towards it. So hoping that this would sort of make the sustainable shift. So the ground level, something. So, any other questions that is popping up, team?
We have one person who has raised his hand for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will unmute you. Ranjit Ramesh, you can talk. Ranjit Ramesh, if you're still in the call.
Okay, we'll have another question, Nandita, if anyone wants to raise their hand and ask a question, because we have another 5-6 minutes left.
Yeah.
Mr. Ranjit, if you can speak, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. You're on. Has he been unmuted, Nandita?
Yeah, I have requested him to unmute, but
Okay. All right, this is Jatin. You can unmute Jatin.
yeah, please go ahead, Jatin.
Am I audible? Oh.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
So actually, my question is regarding this last mile solution that we have created. So in that last mile solution in the Tummoc app, we are seeing that there's also a segment of autos and rickshaws. But when we see urban cities, so the major challenges of congestion arrives when there are lots of e-rickshaws and auto rickshaws are moving in a way which can't be managed. And they created more congestion in a city, in a central part of the city basically. So uh, like my question is how we are managing that issue, as we are also mentioning as a last mile solution of autos and rickshaws. So basically my question is that.
Okay. Thanks, Jatin. So, look, like I was again sort of to reiterate the whole question, to reiterate the whole point. We would want, like, in a utopian world, we'd want people to take public transport all the time, right? But we'll also have to be very cognizant of the fact that, it is not practically possible, right? I'll give you instances, right? We have had conversations with people who are differently abled, right? Sometimes what happens is there are certain metro stations or buses which are not accessible to them. What if they have to do this, like, commute to work, or like, they have to take, like, go to hospitals or go to school or anything, right? So you can't mandate people take public transport because it's sort of, not possible, right? So we'll have to keep those angles all to it, because most of the solutions that we develop is keeping one sort of, set of people in view, but you'll also have to take different kinds of commuters perspective into mind. So So keeping all of those angles, and also the other part is, people who are able also, right? Sometimes it is not possible to always take a bus or a metro when there is, like, scheduled clashes happen. So the idea is to not be overbearing to them and just, like, have people make only public transport choices. We'll also have to give them a bit of a leeway, right? The other point of it is, and I completely agree on the part of, like, there's sometimes what happens is this kind of, auto rickshaws or cabs create these kind of conditions. We are very cognizant of that as well. But that also is, like, we work with, again, coming through the Bangalore lenses, we work with the Bangalore traffic police, right? And they also take feedback on us. And we're also working with, like, some of the people mentioned TOD, right? We're also working with, can there be, like, base specifically created where the ingress and egress can be well maintained, where, like, in auto rickshaws, you can park it somewhere where you don't create this congestion, right? So when the design of metro station happens, you work with the GPA, you work with the urban local bodies to create this so that, this type of conditions do not happen. The other part of it is also the government also is working to provide feeder bus services. So even in the last mile part, last mile need not mean private vehicles, right? Last mile can also be feeder bus services. There are loop services. For in instance, in Mumbai, there are loop services which work, like, every 15 minutes it takes a loop, and you can get on it. It's a flat fare. There are also a lot of loop services in other cities, and feeder bus service that happen in Bangalore as well. Like, it was given an example, the one that connects, the Whitefield or the other area to Outer Ring Road. So many aspects to it. Definitely point taken, but this also is, like, is an evolving solution. But we can't let people not have the option, right? There also has to be option for, if there is no walking path or anything, it's raining heavily, you can't expect people to, like, take a bus, wait for 15-20 minutes. It's like 9 in the night or something. That is why Tummoc also provides option to, like, book cabs and, like, auto rickshaws. But if you check one more, Jatin, if you were to, like, one specific thing, and we have worked with Tummoc on this. If it's like, if your nearest metro station is around 400-500 meters, no, it'll do a subtle nudge. It says, hey, it's only 500 meters. Why don't you walk? Right? So those kind of subtle nudges also we've worked on. If you can check it and play around with the app of Tummoc, you will see that if it's like, 300-400 meters, it'll say, hey, look, you have an opportunity to, like, book a auto, but it's 400 meters. Why don't you walk? Right? So we've kept all of these things, and we want people to move sustainability, but we also don't want to take away certain options, right? We want people to make the choices and not sort of, be overbearing about it. So that is the larger sort of, approach that we have taken. So, yeah, I think, Anandita, great. Thank you, folks. I think this was excellent. A lot of people enthusiasm in providing solutions. Also, I see a lot of comments. My apologies, I could not go through all of them, but there have been, like, not just questions, but also sort of some ideas that have been given to us. And the larger reason for doing this learning series is also to learn from people. Right? There's a collective idea that that city also brings, and people from across India, they've come and they've given us feedback. Point taken. And for all the, like, impact also, please stick around for another couple of months. We'll do an impact assessment and we'll put out a report, right? So you can look at how successful this has been. So thanks a lot. Thank you very much, and over to you, Anandita.
Thank you, everyone. And we will be having our second series, or rather the second webinar of this series, 2 weeks from now. And it will be on how technology can be used for crowding management. I hope to see you all and your colleagues and friends in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks, everyone.